Good morning. I'm starting chapter 31 today in Genesis. Saturday, when I taught chapter 30, there was a lot in it that I thought, I kind of summed it up at the end as a lot of conceiving and babies and cows and everything going on in this lesson. And there was a lady that testified in her comment. She says, I was thinking about this lesson for a while. Then I thought, okay, whatever. Thank you for sharing this lesson. Yes, whatever is true, because there was so much in it. But let's go on and let's see what else happened to Jacob. And he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob hath taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's hath he gotten all this glory. Laban's sons, I don't even know how many there were of them. I know there was Leah and Rachel, but I don't know about the sons. But there were at least two. Anyhow, look back on chapter 30 and you hear what Laban said. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry. For I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. Those sons didn't realize. They didn't know. They got that Jacob had taken everything away from his father. But they were watching when all of the cattle are speckled or ring-straked. All of the cattle are the sheep are bearing brown sheep. They're watching it. And I don't know how they thought Jacob was doing it, though he was trying to do it with his rods. He was trying to do it. But God was blessing him, wasn't he? For working for Laban and for being his chosen. And God will bless you for being his chosen. I'll tell you something that happened this morning. Last week I started reading to the kids again, and every year I have to see if I'm going to have any, because one year it was really slim for a lot of the year. And I prayed the Lord would send me children, but it just seemed like I didn't get a lot. Last year, Lori and I prayed, and God began to send them to me, and I'd get over 15 or over usually every day, with mothers and children. Well, today, I prayed about it last week because I didn't have many. I had Netta and her children and Loria and one other. And one of my little boys called in. But he didn't do it the whole week. So this week, this is Monday, I did really well. I had 13 with mothers and children. And Brother Lonnie called in. So I thought, the Lord's starting to bless. I believe he's going to bless. I believe he's going to give me the children that I need to read to. So that's what happens if you're the Lord's. He's going to bless. He may not make you rich in money, but he might make you rich in people, rich in church, rich in understanding the word. Being able to share it. He'll bless you somehow. He will. And this is what the sons of Laban did not understand. That he wasn't taking what was their father's. He was adding to their father's and receiving from the Lord through the father's flocks. So they said, of that which was our father's hath he gotten all this glory. They didn't like it because he was rich. Oh, and Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. Now, when he first met Laban, he hugged him. Oh, he was so glad to see him. It was Rebekah's son. Oh, he was so glad to see him. And then as time wore on, they had things against each other, it seemed. I'm sure that Jacob didn't wish for Leah that first night and wished it was Rachel. And that made Leah miserable, Rachel miserable, probably. She didn't act like she got miserable over anything but not having children, but made Jacob miserable, made bad feelings between him and Laban probably. And as time wore on, feelings got worse, and finally, with Laban's sons griping about Jacob, Laban's probably understanding that he didn't appreciate Jacob. And the Lord said unto Jacob, Return unto the land of thy fathers and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. The Lord spoke to him again. Remember at the ladder at Bethel, he said he would be with him. And he's telling Jacob to go back to his land, the land of thy fathers. Who owned that land now? Who owned it? Jacob. Yes, he owned it. Now, when he went over there, it might not seem like he owned it, but he owned it because God had given it to him. So, return unto the land of thy fathers and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. And Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field unto his flock, and said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not toward me as before. But the God of my father hath been with me. And you know that with all my power I have served your father. And your father hath deceived me, and changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. If he said thus, the speckled shall be thy wages, then all the cattle bear speckled. And if he said thus, the ringstraked shall be thy hire, then bear all the cattle ringstraked. Thus God hath taken away the cattle of your father, and given them to me. And it came to pass at the time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up mine eyes, and saw in a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the cattle were ringstraked, speckled, and grizzled. And the angel of God spake unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here am I. And he said, Lift up now thine eyes, and see, all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ringstraked, speckled, and grizzled. For I have seen all that Laban doeth unto thee. I am the God of Bethel, where thou anointest the pillar, and where thou vowest a vow unto me. Now arise, get thee out from this land, and return unto the land of thy kindred. My, Jacob was getting to know the Lord, wasn't he? He didn't know him when he met him at Bethel. But God heard his vow and remembered it, and saw him anoint the pillar, remembered it. When you forge a covenant with God, when you tell him, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, he hears you. He wants you to do it. He wants you to do just what you said, because he's going to do for you what he said. So, praise God. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted of him strangers? For he hath sold us, and hath quite devoured also our money. For all the riches which God hath taken from our father, that is ours and our children's. Now then, whatsoever God hath said unto thee, do. They were as one talking to Jacob now, Rachel and Leah. And it sounded like that their father had distanced himself from them also. And because he said, Are we not counted of him strangers? And then it says, for he hath sold us, and they said, the girl said, for he hath sold us and hath quite devoured also our money. I don't know what that meant. I don't know, unless they knew that for Jacob's labor, that was how he sold them. And he wanted everything. Laban wanted everything that it prospered. Everything that Jacob was prospered, he wanted it. They wanted it. Laban wanted it. And he was willing for Jacob to work for him and have just the ring straight, the speckled, the brown, which usually doesn't happen very often. He was willing. And they knew that. I guess that's what they're talking about. They knew that if it had been up to their daddy, Jacob would have had nothing. Just a few cattle and a few sheep. He says, for all the riches which God hath taken from our father, that is ours and our children's. So they were not happy with their father, because he would have left them with nothing and kept it all, and just let them be poor with Jacob, have a poor family. But they also had seen God giving them the ring straight, speckled, and grizzled, because all the rams were that when they leaped upon the ewes. Leaped upon the cattle, it says, are ring straight, speckled, and grizzled. So they knew that God had moved in order to enrich their lives. And they had a lot of children. And that's what they said. All that the riches God hath taken from our father, that is ours and our children's. So they didn't feel like it was unjust. And Laban, this is what I believe, that when Jacob left Laban, that he left him richer than he was. But you know, when you get richer, sometimes you forget. You think, I should be richer than this. I'm not as rich as I thought I could be. I need to be richer. Probably Laban is a lot better off, even when Jacob got his part. So God saw what Laban did to Jacob, because he said he had changed his wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. So it's a shame, isn't it? God could have blessed both Laban and Jacob if Laban had done right and was willing to do right. But, and I guess he did, Jacob. I believe he did bless Laban too, some, but it could have been all a blessing. And Laban could have learned about God from Jacob if he wanted to, had stayed friends. I don't know. Anyhow, strife in families it's hard to keep it out. It's hard to keep strife out of families. But I believe, pray, and the Bible says this, when a man's ways please the Lord, he'll make even his enemies to be at peace with him. So I think I've said that one time before, but it's important to me, because sometimes I know that I have enemies, and I don't know what to do about it. But I just go on and start keeping on trying to please the Lord, because I know what he said. I know he said that. And I want my enemies to be at peace with me. And I want to pray for them, and I want to love them. I do. I try. I do. They may hate me. They may wish I wasn't even there, wasn't around. But I can love them and pray for them. So anyhow, this is what happened here. And then it says, then Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives upon camels. And he carried away all his cattle and all his goods which he had gotten, the cattle of his getting, which he had gotten in Padan Aram, for to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. He came in walking, and he rode out on camels. God blessed him, didn't he? And I believe that when you have the hand of God on your life, there is going to be a blessing there. He said, delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Did he have Rachel? Yes. And he had Leah. To me, she sounds like a good girl. And he had those maids. And they sound like they were good girls too. I don't know all about it, but God gave him 4 wives. All those riches. He walked in there with nothing. And I'm going to tell you, if you're true to God, you may have a desire in your heart that you don't know if it will ever be met. But keep delighting yourself also in the Lord. Okay? I'm going to go. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you.